In case you didn't know.
Oh, I don't get it.
Let's break out. Come on, let's break out. Break out. Tell everybody break out. It's time. Let's go. Let's ride. Let's roll. Got me feeling so free now. It's exactly what I need. Yeah. We knocking down the door. Turn up a little more. Hey, what you waiting for? Break out, break out. Oh, we on the map. I can see you now where the party at. We the ones that they just let into the back.
And we are live.
We're zooming.
Yeah, we are zooming because we're in a polar storm.
Vortex. We're in the vortex.
We are in, what's the name of it? Elliot? Emerson? Emery?
Ralph Waldo, what? Waldo Emerson? Is that who it
No,
is?
what's the name of the polar vortex that we're in? They have a name for it
Oh, I
now.
don't know.
It's like Elliot, something with an E. But
That
it's a
sounds
real,
right.
yeah, I mean, we're naming polar storms right now.
I mean,
Um,
it's only fair, right? Like, if we're gonna name tropical storms and hurricanes, like, why are blizzards being left out?
yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but at the same time, I mean, at this point or at this rate, we'll be naming like drizzles.
Yeah, I mean, how do we differentiate the dusting, if you will, as Dwight Schrute would say, versus like blizzard? Because we have some very significant winter storms here in the Chicagoland area. And so to say, well, this one gets a name and this one doesn't, it's just not going to be very fair.
I mean, it's not fair at all, but
Some snowflakes are going to get left out, and that bothers me.
triggered. Just like my Alexa was this morning.
Just like I was when I saw Donald Trump's tax returns.
Oh gosh, you're not even gonna let me tell my Alexa story, Brian?
No,
Fine.
I want to hear the Alexa
Straight
story. I
into
don't
the
know where
Trump.
you're.
Oh,
I'm not segueing. I was just saying
oh well, it was a great seg.
it's an equivalency.
It was a great segue though. No, I texted you. I asked Alexa this morning, which I got to be quiet. She might hear me. Um, she's always listening. I asked Alexa this morning. I said, Alexa, oh, I hope that everybody listening right now has one in their background and they're playing this so that like everyone's Alexas go off. Um, I said, Alexa,
Siri.
yeah,
Okay, Google.
hey
Just
Siri.
get everyone's.
Oh, I just set mine off. I said, Alexa, uh, give me the latest updates on Donald Trump's tax returns. And literally all she said is triggered and then didn't say anything else. So there's that. I mean,
You think that it wouldn't be so triggered given, the effective tax rate of its, you know, former former boss, but that's okay.
yeah, it'd be like, well, my overlord pays his proper taxes according to the
Mm.
government. Notice how I added
Mhm.
that little something else in there for you.
I did catch it. I did catch it.
I always look it out for you, Brian. Always. But yeah, we are here to talk about the the thing that's burning in people's minds. Everyone wants to know what's up with the taxes. And I
Yeah,
apologize. I apologize for my voice, you guys. I'm getting over a little cold. It doesn't have a
yeah.
name. It doesn't have a name like the polar vortex, but you know, it's all good.
So with the taxes, I mean, this is something that people have been waiting on, right? Because in 2015, Donald Trump said he was going to release his taxes. And the reason he said that he couldn't release them after he promised he would during the campaign for the Republican nomination. He said he couldn't and wouldn't until, he had to as, president, because he was being audited. And lo and behold, that really wasn't the case. And so we find out that looking through his taxes, he's not quite the businessman that he says he is, in the sense that he's working on a negative revenue stream.
Right.
But that also, I hope that they give out like all of the details. I think they're supposed to, except for like the redacted parts, like his social security number, address, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, you know, in certain years, he was declaring like a net operating loss of like negative $70 million versus his $30 million income, which put him at negative $39 million or whatever the case was. I want to see, what was that operating loss? Like, how did he get to a negative operating loss so high? Because his business isn't growing. Like, if you think of some of these like tech companies and startups and stuff like that, they have this negative operating revenue because they're so focused on growth. So if you think of any of the massive companies like Amazon, Meta, Google, Uber, all of those companies, they start, or some still are, in a negative revenue spot because they're focused more on growth. Like, we
Right.
have to win the market share. That's not what Donald Trump's doing at any point in this time. His company isn't trying to win the real estate marketplace. Like, so to say I'm operating at a $70 million loss,
Something's wrong.
yeah, there's something wrong there. It piques my interest. So I wonder if we'll get even further into further into the tax records, where we can see exactly how they arrived at some of the numbers. Like,
Yeah.
where exactly did all that revenue come from? Where did that operating loss come from? And really dig deep into, okay, who is giving him these loans, that he owes money on? And we did find out some of the loans he was giving out,
Or
but like,
yeah.
yeah,
We'll get to that.
so
We'll get to
like,
that.
yeah, so we want to know a little bit more. But even at face value, this initial offering that we got from the Ways and Means Committee, making this public from 2015 to 2021 or 2020.
I believe it's 2020.
Yeah, it's the last year of his presidency.
Yeah. 2020.
Even with that, if the face value of what we got there, it is awfully suspicious.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And actually, just before we well, actually, two things. One, the funny thing about like when you're filing your tax returns as a business, if you lose so much in 1 year and you write it off on your taxes the following year, if you don't recoup enough of those values, you can then claim some of that into the next year. So you see a lot of years, and we'll go over some of the numbers now, but like some of the most astonishing ones is like, so 2015 said he was at a $31 million loss. So he paid $641,931 in taxes. The following year, $32 million loss, which if you're losing $30 million in 2 years in a row, you're doing
good businessman.
Yeah, really good businessman. Paid $750 in taxes. 2017, same thing, but he only had a $12 million loss, so he was on the recovery there. $750 in taxes. 2018, he was in the green, $24 million, but only paid $100,000 in taxes. It was a little less than that, but we're talking about peanuts. Next year, he made $4,133,000 paid in taxes. And in 2020, he had a $4 million loss, paid $0 in taxes in 2020.
And once again, like, he owns certain businesses that can push these numbers up and down, right? Like operating revenues, also depreciation of assets. He can inflate his worth, right? By
Mhm.
saying my assets are worth this,
Yeah.
or by saying my assets have dropped, so I can't pay taxes, right? So it's like if he needs to get loans, he can say, well, I have these assets as collateral valued at this to get the
Right.
loans. And this is
Right.
what Letitia James was going after and as the Manhattan district attorney is like, well, you can't take out loans for let's say $1 billion saying I have this property that's worth $2 billion as collateral for this $1 billion loan,
Mhm.
but then also say that that $2 billion value or that $2 billion property is worth $200 million on my taxes. So you
Right.
can't have the best of both worlds. It has to be what is the value of that house and how can you use it or that property? How can I leverage that into a loan?
Yeah.
But then it has to be at least very close in value to what you report on your taxes.
Yeah, I think if you do what you were saying, where you're saying one thing to get the loan and another thing to reduce your tax amount, I think that's called oh shit, it's fraud.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like fragile where it's Italian, but it
Yeah,
definitely I think it's fraud. Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's how you would say
Maybe
it.
it's fraud. Um,
It's German.
German. They know all about being in debt after World War II. Um, that's not too harsh, is it?
No, I think we can make the jokes about their political and economic endeavors, just not so much their social endeavors of the time.
No, I had
I
no
don't. Yeah.
no intention of bringing that up right now. Not looking to
Okay.
open that can of worms. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's very strange to me. Because how can a man who seems to be this far in debt and his business is doing so poorly still live the lavish lifestyle that he lives?
Hmm.
Where he's playing golf at Mar-a-Lago, he's flying on his private jet, which he wrote that off in a bunch of his tax returns as well, which is you know something that we'll get into a little bit later, especially about like
Can I pause right there?
yeah, of course you can.
How do you write off private jet costs when you're the president and you have Air Force One?
Dude, he wanted Air Force Two. Got to have two of everything.
There is an Air Force Two, and they don't use he doesn't use it.
No, I don't think it's called Air Force Two, is it? Isn't it just Air Force One? Duh.
Part two. Um,
It's
no,
nice
I
about
think that's
doing
the
these.
one. Air Force Two is the one that the vice president usually uses.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
So,
maybe I knew that in the past and I forgot it.
um, so even then, I'm like, wait, how is he deducting so much for private travel if he's
It's a
using?
lot too.
Yeah, he's using Air Force One. Now, I think that's one of the perks of being the president, so you don't have to, utilize that as like I think that's like a business expense, right? But it's
Right.
not
Yeah.
your plane, so you're not taking on any of that expense.
Well, and when he signed on as president, he kind of relinquished the role he had, with the Trump name as far as business goes. And so you shouldn't be able to write that off. It seems silly to me.
Right.
Even I would even go as far as to say, and I don't know if this is true or not, I don't think you should be able to do that while you're campaigning. If you're using your private jet to go campaign, so when he was campaigning 20, 14, 15, 16, excuse me, um, that's not something you should be able to write off as a business expense because it's not a business expense. It's an endeavor in your own future, unrelated to your business.
Yeah, I look at those numbers, right? And I'm looking at them now. Zero, and I understand if you're losing money, like how can you pay federal taxes? Having a taxable income of $0, $750 in taxes. But the other question that must be, begged for is okay, you were losing all this money. You lost money 3 years straight. why in the second 2 years of your presidency were you all of a sudden making money?
Yeah.
And that's another thing is like when I want to see where this money is coming from. Now, another thing is like he might be getting these massive loans. And I think that's where we're going to start to see some major conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
Is like, was it, similar to someone we might talk about a little bit later, Elon Musk. Getting a lot, like Elon Musk got a lot of money from Saudi Arabia to do this Twitter deal. And like, I think he went back to them more recently. But we'll get to that. So like, was Donald Trump getting money from Saudi Arabia? Was he getting money from, Russia? Because
Right.
as much as like it kind of got poo-pooed down the stretch, like, the whole Russian asset thing or the dossier that had the pissing videos or whatever, that could all be, completely fraud, like fake, actual fake news. But was he getting money from these oligarchs, through like Deutsche Bank? Like that's what some of that was brought up was like, was he getting money from Deutsche Bank and getting co-signed for by these, Russian oligarchs, these oil magnates from Russia? And
Right.
that is a big issue. If he was doing that leading into his presidential run or even during his presidency, to keep this afloat, because either he wasn't doing a very good job as a businessman or he was utilizing all the loopholes he could find and then using dirty money to keep everything afloat. So I don't know, but I really want to know more. But it makes me very suspicious that in 2018 and 2019, all of a sudden his money went way up. Like,
Yeah.
I know I was watching a news report and they flashed the 5 years and it's like red, 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 and then green, green. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
where did that come from? Why is that happening?
And then what did you do to not remain in the green the following year?
Right. Like, did you no longer have like did Russia all of a sudden say, yeah, you're not going to win, so we're not going to keep backing you? Like, were they trying to get him to be, because we also got to remember, what was it? When Trump got impeached for the Ukraine issue. When was that? Was that 2018?
Nah. For some reason I want to say it was 2019, but I could be off. It was one of the 2 years.
Okay, I think it was probably late 2019, maybe going into 2020.
Nice.
Maybe he didn't do a good enough job of withholding that military funding for Ukraine, and Russia
Right.
was pissed and they stopped funding. I don't know, and that's why I want to learn more about this.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
wouldn't.
just very suspicious.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make those speculations yet until. Me personally. I mean,
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
I do.
I know you do, Brad guy. That's why I'm here, because leveler heads prevail. I would love to look at that. I wouldn't consider myself a numbers guy, but I would definitely say that I love, the statistics end of it, as far as like, what are the chances of this versus that? And I would definitely love to look at the numbers and see, what they're trying to chalk those losses up to. Is it I would like to say, is it R&D, but it's not R&D, because what research and development would they be doing, other than developing more buildings, or buying more land? So I really don't know. So there is something fishy there, and I would just really love to know, because I was reading, I'm sure you probably read the same New York Times article that was saying that they're saying that a majority of his wealth is still coming from his father.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me so happy, because remember, early on in his presidential campaign, he got a small loan, a quote unquote small
Yeah.
loan from his father for like $3 million.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be true. But then your daddy died, and
Yeah.
what did he leave you? And he left you his entire real estate empire.
Yeah.
that you are slowly driving into the ground.
Yeah. Because he did make a $14 million gain from the sale of his father's 1970s investment in Brooklyn housing development. Um, nothing like making a quick 14 mil. But didn't he always present himself as a billionaire?
Yeah. Yeah, he still does. And
Which,
not just like I barely made a billion, like cool, I get to put the beat. Like he was like one of the wealthiest men in America. And
yeah,
remember, in the 80s, the Forbes people have gone back and said they probably shouldn't have put him on the richest men in America list because they had no like proof. They just kind of accepted that, like, oh yeah, you
yeah,
have all this money.
yeah,
It's like that that title, right, of being one of the richest men in America puts you in a position of leverage and business deals, licensing deals, right?
oh,
Like he was
certainly.
able to
Yeah,
license his name to a point where he was making millions and millions of dollars just for people to use his name. He didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to, schlep anything. All he had to do was say, "Yeah, you can put my name on your tower. Give me $2 million a year." Like that kind of stuff played a role in being considered one of the richest men in America, especially in the 80s and 90s, where like there was something to say about that. Like people valued that a lot more then than they do today, right? Like, don't get me wrong, billionaires still have incredible pull, but like our generation, you and me, Kevin, and the younger generation, they don't give a shit about if you're a billionaire. In fact, for people like me, it enrages me that you even can say that you're a billionaire because we have so many issues in this country that could be helped by a proper taxation system like we had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s leading into the Nixon Reagan administrations.
yeah. Brian would like for somebody to be like, lead off with, I'm a billion, or I was a billionaire. And then Brian would say, well, why? And then the ex billionaire would say, well, because I took 500 million of it and gave it to the needy.
The needy, or you just never got there because there was a 92%
Yeah, Brian,
effective tax rate.
I'm not leaving anything outside the realm of possibility. Maybe they
Okay.
made so much that they hit the billion after paying taxes. Like, what if they're just really good at saving money, Brian?
You know what?
You're a real piece of shit, Brian. You just don't accept anything.
Yeah, I don't. You're right. You're right. I need to be,
You need to
you
be more,
know,
you have to be more
maybe I
inclusive.
just need to be more financially prudent and I will be able to be a billionaire.
That's not what I'm saying. But
Stop eating the avocado toast, you fucking millennial. Start saving your money and you'll be a billionaire. Dave
or
Ramsey.
just I mean, I just would say just make your own avocado toast. It's cheaper.
I don't even eat avocado toast. That sweet pea toast is pretty good though.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah, I like that.
I
That's
like it a
good.
lot too. I like it a lot too. I wouldn't say that I like it more than avocado toast, but I would say I liked it more than Blue Roots avocado toast. Because like Blue Roots
Yeah.
avocado toast was good, but like it wasn't anything where it was like, oh yeah, I want to spend $16 on this.
Yeah.
Whereas the sweet pea toast, it's like, first of all, it's a huge portion. Second of all, you get
Hmm.
a side, and third of all, I mean, well, in today's prices, it's $20, but like, I don't know, can't beat it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But enough about
Um,
saving money by not having toast with different vegetables or fruits on it.
how do we save money like Donald Trump does with taxes? Um,
Yeah,
I think to go back, the losses were very suspect, but then
same.
also the donations are
Yeah.
very
Oh,
suspect.
21 million dollars. He's saying he basically donated to conserve land. Um, and that's based on the estimate of the land that he just basically didn't develop on.
Hmm. Yeah, he couldn't develop like a golf course on it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
he's like, oh, yeah, I donated. And that's
It's
like, it's such a scheme, right? That's
oh
like
yeah,
donating a piece of art to a museum that you
yeah,
still technically own, but you're
yeah,
donating it for the time being because you
yeah.
can't do anything with a fucking Picasso. Okay, I have this Picasso. It's in my home. I've stared at it. I've looked at it. Maybe a year goes by and you're like, I no longer need that Picasso in my home. I'll donate it and it's worth $40 million. That's a
Yeah.
$40 million charitable donation,
Yeah.
right?
And that's how a lot of very wealthy people kind of find those loopholes, is by
Mhm.
donating artwork. I'm not gonna pretend that I remember what the number was, but it's a very large number out there of what people get away with as donations, and it's all in the
Mhm.
form of artwork.
And I don't think, if you're in the lower tax brackets, right, for your household, and you claim, yeah, I gave away $1,000 as a
Yeah.
tax deduction,
Oh yeah.
I see no problem with that, where you don't need the receipts. In
Yeah.
fact, hey, give the low guy on the totem pole an extra break on his
Oh, give him the
taxes.
back.
That's
Give him.
great.
Listen. And of course, I'm gonna knock on wood now, or fake wood, whatever this desk is made out of. Because like I'll claim on there, and I'll always choose like a small amount, but like charitable donations. But it's up,
Yeah.
a certain amount of it is like what I can account for. But I'm not saying millions. I don't think I'm even getting over like hundreds.
No, yeah, I'm fully sympathetic to, people donate a lot of time, effort, resources, all of that stuff.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think if you really looked at it, a person like you or myself certainly gives away hundreds of dollars a year. But to say millions and millions and millions. So, according to the I think it was the NY Times, they tracked his tax records and claims that he has given $130 million in charitable donations since 2005. And the vast bulk of these charitable donations, 119.3 million, 119.3 of that 130 million came from agreeing to not develop land.
Yeah.
That's messed up. And I think another reason, like, why he exposed himself to all of these disastrous, like, litigation issues. Like, I don't think he comes through this unscathed. Like, whether it's fines or criminal proceedings, like, I don't think he comes out completely unscathed here.
No, I would say that you're definitely right. I would love to say that he would just come out. There's the possibility of him coming out unscathed in public opinion, but you know, I think that there's going to be people that brush this aside to some extent, or say that it was falsified in some way.
And, like, wasn't I think there was like 20 million or so in cash donations. And I remember, yeah,
That
here it is.
none of that came to us.
Well, yeah. Uh, the single largest cash donation he gave out in 2011, he made to his own foundation, which has also had very suspicious behavior, where like
Right.
it paid millions of dollars for a painting of himself, et cetera, et cetera. He made a check out for $400,000 to his own foundation, which in most circumstances, if LeBron James is donating to his own, school system that he's helped create,
Right.
like, I don't have an issue with that. When there's someone who is under so much scrutiny right now for fraudulent, or at the very minimum suspicious behavior, like,
Yeah.
every single thing should be looked at, through a microscope here, like every single step, because there's probably more than one misstep.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Um,
I would definitely
and
agree with that.
you brought up
Oh,
the
are you,
loans,
oh yeah,
the
this
loans.
is my favorite
Okay.
part, right? If you guys are a Patreon, you're probably already gonna have heard this part. Um, but one of the big red flags with these tax returns is loans to his children. So, a couple of fun facts for all you listeners out there, if you don't know already, um, is that one, you can pay your children up to 12,000. Is it 12,000 or 13,000?
I think
12,000.
12,500.
$12,500 a year, as like to pay them as your employees. tax-free money going to them. But Donald Trump has received tens of thousands of dollars in payments from his children on personal loans, quote unquote, that he has given to them. So he's basically raking in all of this money as payments on interest and not paying a dime on it. So, I don't know whether or not his children are really just trying to venture out and start their own thing, which, not to discredit them or to not give them the benefit of the doubt, but in this case, it doesn't seem very plausible, because I think every time I've seen his children, they're on the campaign trail with him, or well, I'm not going to say that. That's mean.
Be mean.
No, man, because I don't know them. What do I know? I'm just some kid podcasting from his office instead of Brian's Garage Studios. You like how I called myself a kid?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is just another one of the red flags. But Trump reported about $51,000 in interest from his kids each years between 2015 and 2019, and then reported $46,000 in 2020.
Well, and I think you're right. So, a really good a Politico article that Kevin and I have both referred to here, also points out, you have to charge a certain amount of interest on a loan.
Right.
It's not a loan if you're saying hey, yeah, I'll give you a loan and there's 0.5 interest. No, that's you just helping out a buddy at that point, or helping out your kids. That's not a loan. Now you don't have to charge 50% in interest. Now you're a loan shark. But there's that normal interest rate where right now the interest rate is 7.5%. You could give a little discount because it's your kid and be like, hey, I'll give you this loan for 3%.
Yeah,
that's fair. You can make that reason. But if it's so nominal where he's giving away millions and millions and millions of dollars over the years,
first of all, what are they doing with the money?
Getting back, huh?
I said, first of all, what are they doing with the money?
Well, yeah, they're not doing anything. It's a personal loan, so you can do whatever you want with it.
Right, for sure.
But to say 51% is or $51,000 is coming back a year. That's not a very high interest rate considering the millions and millions you're giving away. And the tax rate at giving your children money up to a certain point is 40%. And so if he gave a $10 million gift or a $20 million gift to his kids and said, hey, this is a loan, I'm charging you interest, now they don't have that as an income, right? It's now a debt. So their income is really low. And then he's now getting out of paying that 40% tax. That's huge amounts of money that is not going to the American, the tax system. Instead, sitting in the Trump Foundation as well.
Yeah. God, the more that we get into this, the more I'm just I would love to take a look at these books. I would have to have somebody take a look at them with me to understand.
Yeah, like a true accountant.
Yeah,
and be
but I got a guy for that. It's fine.
You got a guy?
I do. I got a guy. Such a Chicago thing to say, or New York thing to say. And I got a guy. But no, I would. It would just be so much fun. I think that now all of the information, like we said, it's not going to all be made as, public knowledge, or be able to, be looked at even with a FOIA request. But I think that when it all comes out, when it all is made public, we should do a live stream, almost like a story time, of Brian and Kevin going over Donald Trump's tax returns, and we can make it fun. Oh, and we could do visuals. You know what I mean? Where it's where we add everything up in different columns, and we'll Microsoft Excel that shit so that, you know what I mean? It'll automatically add and deduct. I haven't had to learn how to Microsoft Excel.
It's like
I know.
resumes and interviews,
Yeah.
everyone says like I'm proficient in Microsoft Excel.
Yeah.
Like,
I
yeah, I
never
know how
said
to
I
type
never said I never
in
said that.
it. Yeah.
Not,
Um,
not about to lie.
yeah, I mean, you're not Donald Trump, you wouldn't get away with it. Um, I really think that this further proves the kind of grifter that he is. There's one other thing that really struck me here, right? Was this whole audit story.
Yeah.
And the fact is, there is a mandate for the IRS to audit the president
President's
every
taxes.
year
Yeah.
he's sitting.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. And it really calls into question, Steve Mnuchin, who was the Secretary of the Treasury,
Yeah.
and what kind of levers was Trump pulling on Mnuchin and Mnuchin on the IRS? Because, as the Secretary
Right.
of the Treasury, you run the IRS and you can tell them, no, we're not doing this. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we're supposed to. It's like a mandate. It's part of our regulatory mechanism here to audit the president,
Right.
and he can say no. And I guess it was like the way it was stated was it was ready for audit, but no, it was not necessary or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why was that happening? Why was that allowed? Who else was part of that cover up? Like,
Yeah.
that's another aspect to this. Like, we have the tax fraud and all of this, but what kind of criminal behavior is it to leverage the position of POTUS or Secretary of Treasury to do these things, to cover up these things? And just how much is in those numbers that they needed to cover this up, that they needed to make sure that there weren't full audits done, right? So there
Right.
has to be a certain level of fraud where these
Yeah.
two men would go to extreme lengths to make sure that something wasn't done.
Absolutely. And just for reference too, like this goes over a couple of things, but it'll kind of put it in perspective for you. So Kamala Harris, when she was running as a presidential candidate, had 17 tax returns reported or audited. Kirsten Gillibrand, 12. Bill de Blasio, well, he's not a very good example. He only had 2, but that makes sense.
Mhm.
Pete Buttigieg, 12. Steve Bullock, 14. Cory Booker, 10. Joe Biden, 23. Way to go, Joey.
Mhm.
But he also, he's been in this for a while. Maybe we should see
Mhm.
a couple more there.
Well, and he ran multiple times.
Right.
And it was not necessarily a tradition, but it was something that a lot of presidential candidates did, was
Right.
to show their taxes.
Right.
Here's who I am. Here's how I got here.
Yeah.
Right. And that was an important thing for the credibility of the president to say, listen, I'm going to run this country. Here's why I can.
Yeah.
I don't have affiliations with foreign entities, foreign governments, all of that. I don't owe anyone money. I'm not in bad shape, so I'm not going to be a political pawn for
Right.
someone like Vladimir Putin, right? Where I owe someone money. And that was a big claim, when Trump was running, that he was a puppet for Putin because he owed Russia money. And it's like, okay, we never knew yes or no, but a disclosure of your taxes
Yeah.
would allow the American public to have faith in that. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to make that claim, and you don't get to just make claims, right? And
Yeah.
say, well, you have to prove me wrong. No, there is some burden of proof on both sides, but there was so much pointing in a certain direction that was like, okay, now you kind of have to prove your case. And he never did, even though he claimed over and over that he would.
I always thought that Donald Trump was a puppet for Putin because Putin always liked to have his hand up Trump's keister.
Exactly. Exactly. And, for the record, it is very important for men to check in on those things. Colonoscopies are important.
Prostate
Um,
exams.
prostate exams, like
Yeah.
colon
Yeah.
cancer checks, all of that. So,
I wouldn't
make
count. I would
sure.
make
Go
sure to
ahead.
go to Russia.
No, don't get it from Russia. The Gulag,
I was making a joke. I was making a joke about Putin.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
But yeah, all joking aside, like I agree. Like I thought there was a lot of influence coming from Russia, and I'm
yeah,
still interested to see where some of this money was coming. Like the operating loss, I think, has a lot to do with how he regarded his assets,
yeah,
like inflating them for loans and then deflating them for taxes.
yeah.
Um, but where did he get his income from?
You know what,
Right,
James?
like these properties, but what other loans did he get from outside
Yeah.
sources?
You know what? I'm just gonna put this out there really fast because I thought of something there. There's a lot of scenarios that are coming up tonight where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to look at this. Oh, I wish I could see that. I wish that I could, this, that, and the other thing. I think if I had to pick one superpower, I would pick to be able to be invisible whenever I wanted for a year, but also be able to walk through any wall. Okay. And I would travel the world to all the governments. I would look at the documents. I'd have to learn how to speak other languages or have like an invisible camera with me so I could use Google Translate. Because that's always a good thing to use on top secret documents. I've heard from a friend. And I would travel the world for a year. I'd have to rob a few banks because like I wouldn't be working. But I mean that's whatever. I'd rob like Deutsche Bank. It's fine. Um,
Fair.
um, and I'd go into like the Kremlin. I'd go into Washington D.C. Whatever. I'll visit Mar-a-Lago if I have to. It's for science, just to be able to gather all that knowledge and then and never have a superpower again. I give myself a year because I would need time for travel.
Where's the first place you would go on this venture?
Oh, probably Russia.
Okay. You would do
Um,
Russia first, then China next.
yeah, I would. Well, I would hit Russia. I'd hit China. I'd stop in the UK, grab a brewski at a pub, watch Mumford and Sons. I don't know. I would.
Excellent band.
Yeah,
A
I would
little
be.
random, but yeah.
I have a dream that like one day I'd walk into a small pub in like England and see a band like that before they got big. I just thought that'd be cool. It's a dream I have. Anyways, and then I'd make my way back to the US and then I'd lay it all out and I would compare notes and I'd see what's really going on. Because I'm talking
Fair.
about going in like the deepest of securities. Speaking of going to foreign places though,
Oh,
I do want to hit up one more of the big red flags for
okay, cool.
Trump.
Yeah.
Just because we are starting to we're getting a little further in there in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're already at about 45 minutes here.
Shut the front door. I have so little, like, I have a complete
Zero concept of time.
inability, yeah, to track time unless I see the clock
Oh yeah.
next to me. So that's the
Yeah.
one disadvantage here where
Oh
I
yeah.
don't
And that
know.
and that's the only way that I can ever keep track of it. So we're in the same boat. Um, but it's important to note that Trump did not pay many taxes in the U.S. on about just 1.8 million dollars over a 6-year period. So the way that you can do this is like you can't tax the same dollar twice. Okay, that's the way that the U.S. does it because it becomes a little bit redundant and it can be hard on the person. Which honestly, I think it's kind of a fair rule. So if there's something that
Yeah,
is taxed in another country and you can show documentation that it was taxed, or if you're Trump, you don't really have to show much documentation. Um, but if you can show documentation showing that you paid taxes on that money in another country, you won't get taxed on that money in the US.
right.
So he has there's not a whole lot of information out there about this. But they do say that in 2018 he claimed a tax credit for paying $1.3 million to another government. You know what I mean? That's just 2018.
Right.
So this
But they
article,
don't say which governments either,
yeah,
which is interesting.
probably Russia.
Probably. And that's why, so I think we covered it a while back, but that's why that deal for Janet Yellen was such a big deal with foreign taxes and
Yeah.
making sure that they leveled the field a little bit where there was a 15% minimum for foreign taxes. Like you can't just house your money here and pay like 1% taxes. And
Right.
so everyone just houses their money there and avoids international taxes. And everyone got on board with that legislation. So that was a really big deal. But to go back, yeah, to just say like, yeah, I paid $1.3 million in taxes and having no receipts, right?
Mhm.
And this is why
Yeah.
it's so crucial for a sitting president to be audited every year.
Yeah.
What kind of deals are going on? Now, mind you, to go from a negative operating loss to a positive one the last 2 years, when you're not supposed to be running the businesses, that means one of two things. You're fraudulent or you're a really, really shitty business person because your businesses are making so much money without you there.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think it's more the first than the second, but I do think Donald Trump is a terrible businessman. But with that said, I think when you have so much money, you can't really lose. And that's what he was doing. He's like committing all these fraudulent practices within the tax system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So final outcome, Kevin, on the taxes.
Yeah.
What do you think happens? Where do you think this goes? Is this another Teflon Don thing where it's a big nothing burger and he runs for president and wins the nomination? Do you think it holds him up for even getting the nomination? Does it scare people away? Or does he actually face criminal charges and go away?
I think there's a small probability of all of them.
Okay.
I don't think that he Teflon Dons his way out of this.
Okay.
And that's hard for me to say because I think every time we go over something happening with Trump in court, I always say he's going to get away with it. It's going to be the same as always. I think that there's a little bit more momentum behind things now, and people want to see something happen. And if nothing happens here, there's going to be an outcry for justice. Do I think it'll stop his 2024 presidential campaign? Nothing will. That man will run from a jail cell. And when he only gets 1 million votes, he will cry fake election. I don't think there'll be any criminal charges as far as I don't think he's going to serve any time. I think that he'll have to pay some hefty fines. Which it's fine because if what you're saying is correct, he can just write his buddy Vladdy and say, "Yo, Vlads, I need some more money." But it's really hard to say. I think that's where I'm at with it right now. No jail time, probably fines. Vladimir Putin will pay them if Brian's right. And I think that he will run in 2024. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. And yes, I think there's enough momentum for him to be charged with something.
Yeah, I think what really comes of it is some sort of outing of all the shit that he's been pulling. Like, we'll really understand it all. I think it will severely damage his political credibility.
Yeah.
I think he was already losing that. I think we haven't seen a lot of DeSantis lately. And I think it's because he's so far ahead, he doesn't want to lose momentum. He's just letting Donald Trump dig his own grave.
Yeah.
And then
And then
hoping that the Biden administration has a big choke down the stretch and he can beat out Joe Biden or whomever they put forward.
Well, and I still don't think that Joe Biden will run in 2024. I think the man's running out of gas, which, hey, that's okay. He's old.
I don't know, man. I was thinking
retire,
the same thing, but what he's done in the last year or so, and then also seeing his interaction with Zelensky of Ukraine, like it was very. I kind of marvel at it. I wish it was more like that all the time because you do get the missteps and the weird off the cuff moments that don't go as well.
Yeah, that's because he's old.
That was a really good moment. Yeah, I agree. I don't want him to run in 2024.
Yeah.
But if it's between him and DeSantis, for me, it's a still an easy choice. That said,
I would like to see somebody else from the Democratic Party challenge him, even if he
I
says he's
agree.
going again.
I don't think there will be a challenger. I think he would step down if he felt like there was a really good candidate that could beat out the Republican Party. And I think they're kind of massaging that idea
I think
now.
that yeah,
And as much as Gavin Newsom says, no, I'm not doing that, I think it's to not destroy any credibility of Biden, but also the way he's just been out in front of things like massive legislation or interviewing and destroying like some of the hypocrisy of the Republican Party right now. It seems like he's setting the stage.
yeah. All right. Well, before we run out of time here, anything else on taxes? Otherwise, I really briefly, I think we should at least bring up one thing that is just making, you know what? It's just making Brian a little politically aroused.
Well,
Um,
we've been talking about billions and billions of dollars, right? So let's
why,
stick with it.
let, let's talk about a little bit about Elon Musk. We'll keep this one pretty brief. Um, I'm just going to start it off by saying that he ousted himself from his own company, which is dope.
I think,
Which is just it's very noble, it's very admirable.
yeah, I,
Will he follow up with his Twitter poll? So basically he put a Twitter poll out there and it was a ridiculous amount. It was millions and millions of people that responded to this Twitter
yeah.
poll. And he said, "Do you think I should step down as CEO of Twitter? I will abide by the vote." And I think it was something like 57% of people said yes.
Right. Which, if we know anything about politics or large scale voting like that in America, like if you have 57% of the vote, that is a substantial
Yeah,
win. Now, do you want to hear my theory on this whole thing?
please.
Okay. He was spotted going to the World Cup sitting in a box with major Middle Eastern businessmen. Remember, when he took over Twitter, he leveraged a shit ton of money on Tesla stock, right? He used that as collateral on margin and said, like, hey, these stocks are worth this much. I'm buying it with the value of this stock, right? All of a sudden, over the last few months, since he's taken over Twitter, that
Right.
stock has plummeted. And so what happens if you have something on margin, you owe for the difference
Yeah.
because it becomes too risky for the person backing that margin. So they do the margin call. It's what it's
Right.
called. I think he was getting calls. He goes to Qatar, whatever, for the World Cup and is hanging out with all these Saudi Arabian men. And he gets the money he needs to maintain control of Twitter. But part of that is, hey, you don't get to be the leader anymore. It's been hemorrhaging money under your
Yeah.
control. We need new leadership. The board doesn't like you. You're not doing a good job. You're causing too much controversy. This will never make money. We won't make money on our investment. Um, or we don't. I don't think Saudi Arabia cares about making money. I think they're
Yeah.
trying
They
to.
do that just fine on their own.
I think yeah. Well, I think they are trying to control a social media outlet
Yeah.
under the guise of Elon Musk, but they can't just hemorrhage money and make it go bankrupt where the platform's gone. So they have to have that sustainability where they can at least continue to pour money and control the narrative. So I think Elon Musk got that money and they said, "Hey, you got to be out of the board." He put it up as a poll, and now he's doing the noble thing, right? He's like, "Hey, Twitter poll has spoken," like he did with Donald Trump coming back on. He said, "Hey, do we let Donald Trump back on? The people have spoken. All right." I think he knew that the Twitter poll might go a certain way. And he's like, "All right, I'll put it up as a poll. So I save face where I'm not resigning
Yeah.
because these people are making me. I'm not getting booted from it. It's the Twitter poll
Right.
has spoken. And that is the power of this platform. You want to be on this platform because we give you so much power that you control this company. And it
Yeah.
like reinvigorates people, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's all a big fraud, like a Trump, like it's a fraud. And I was having a conversation with my cousin the other night, and I was like, Elon Musk is a younger, a little bit more, a little smarter, a little more intelligent version of Donald Trump. Came from money, made some good investments, used all that money to gain more and more power, inflated his overall value to companies, and now is in a position where it's kind of catching up to him. And here we are. And
Yeah.
so
I would give him
grifter.
I would give him a little bit more credit than that. I think he's much smarter than Donald Trump is.
True. That
I
is a very, very low bar.
there's
You're right.
well, and it's not just that. I really think that Elon Musk is an intelligent man. I just don't know if he's a good man.
Well, the funny thing is about that, real quick, is Twitter has these Twitter spaces where you can talk with people and it can be
Yeah.
live and like all of that. And he was talking about the coding of Twitter and like how it's just an absolute pile of shit. And he's like, the stack needs to be rewritten. It's crazy. And like you and I would take that face value and be like, oh, well, he must know how to code, and he's obviously speaking from a point of authority. So yeah, it must be crazy. Well, an actual coding expert was like, what about the stack was crazy? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And like the guy who actually understands coding was calling him on his bullshit. And he fucking flipped out on the guy
The man who
and basically shut down this,
the man who allegedly knows about coding, because maybe that guy just came in was doing the same Elon Musk thing.
True. He could have, but he was better at it than Elon Musk because Elon Musk like panicked.
That just means he's
tried to shut him down, calling him an asshole on this Twitter space, and he's like, and it's like a live, audio, and so there's all these people that can chime in, and he started hassling the guy and like attacking him personally rather than attacking the argument, which usually means you're fucked in the argument, and so then all of a sudden it got cut off, and it was very similar to when Elon Jet got shut down on Twitter. Which was the Twitter account that tracked his private jet, and he shut that down. And then the reporters who reported about that got shut down.
Yeah,
and they're like, "We didn't dox you. We didn't tell anyone your location. We were reporting on the fact that you shut down that account. Why would we get shut down?"
Right.
And all he kept saying was, "You're doxing me too, and that's illegal on our platform. You're not allowed to do it." So I think he's getting caught up in that whole. That sham, that facade that he's put up as being this world's smartest coder and I do everything and I work so hard. I think it's kind of catching up right now. And I'm not saying he's an idiot or an imbecile, but I just think he's put up this facade to leverage, similar like I'm the greatest businessman, right? Donald Trump, I'm the greatest businessman, and using that to leverage other business maneuvers, and Elon Musk was doing the same thing, and that grift caught up to him.
Fair enough.
So I don't know. I'm fascinated by it. And when we're talking about politically savvy people, he's not my favorite person, but Mitch McConnell is a savage in politics. Real quick, and we can talk about it another time. The omnibus just passed. In the Senate, the omnibus is our spending bill, and it was passed for $1.7 trillion in spending. And it was thought that it might not pass the Senate. And if it didn't pass the Senate now and got to past 2020, 2022. So when the new class of Republicans come to the House, it would never pass because it's got to pass both the House and the Senate. Mitch McConnell didn't like what the alt-right wing, like the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Matt Gaetzes were saying, even Kevin McCarthy. He's like, nah, we're going to pass this. So he got it passed in the Senate from a minority position. So the Senate was like, fuck yeah, Mitch McConnell's on board. He can take some of his normal conservatives with him. And it passed like by 68 votes. So there's no chance of a filibuster. Push it through and it's going to pass the House. And it won't be affected by the McCarthy and crazy wing of the Republican Party. And he was like, you guys don't understand. Like, I'm the power player of the Republicans. Like, I control this. And he fucking did it. And he just stepped all over that whole nut job wing of the Republican Party.
All right. Well, you know what? That's the first time Brian has ever said anything nice about Mitch McConnell.
I call it like I see it. Okay. I got to give credit where it's due. I'll always do that. He just never really gave me many reasons.
Or try. You get an A for effort. No, I think
Thanks, man.
I think you did a great job. I think that's awesome that you brought that up.
Cool.
And I think that's a good place to end it for tonight.
Yeah. But save your voice, man.
I'm trying. I'm
feel
I'm
feel
struggling. I'm sorry.
feel
It's
better.
oh, you know
I
what?
know.
Honestly, my body
Go
feels
ahead.
better. It's just my voice is like showing everybody how my body felt the last few days.
Okay. Well, I
So,
hope you feel better. I hope the Mad Libs community who's listening right now,
yeah.
Kevin and I Kevin is going to try to put this up on YouTube because we're doing a Zoom session right now.
Yeah.
So check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe if you wouldn't mind. There's no cost. It's subscribing on YouTube.
Right.
Give us a like on the video. Get it promoted. We're super thankful for you. Have a wonderful holidays. We probably won't record on Sunday when it's Christmas Day, so you probably won't see us till next week. That said, have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe, stay healthy,
Yeah.
stay warm.
Yeah.
Especially so many of our local listeners dealing with this blizzard. But we love you all. Okay, do good, be great. Love you.
Love you guys. We did it. Oh, the video's still going. A little extra.
That's okay.
A little something extra for you kids. Give Brian.
This is for the YouTube. Hey, look at this.
Oh,
You like that? It does it automatically.
nuh-uh.
No, you gotta go down your reactions and see there's a little carrot next to reactions.
Yeah.
And you say recognize hand gestures. And you click it, and then you'll start to see a little bar.
Yeah. It doesn't like my camera.
Oh, make sure you're not on clicked on the reactions anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, why do I need to do that? Like, I'm giving the thumbs
Yeah, it
up.
doesn't like mine. Doesn't like mine.
Anyways, that's not one. You can also raise your hand.
That's okay. That was just for you.
If you raise your hand, they're like, oh, and that actually changes where you're positioned on the Zoom, which is cool. Because
like you're raising your hand.
So if there's like 50 people on the Zoom and you click raise hand, it'll bring you to the front and be like, oh, someone has a question. Let me pause and address that question, right? And it won't go down until someone says, yeah, there you go. Then you got to click lower it. So like if someone calls on you, you can lower it, but it brings you to the front of the Zoom.
It just did.
Yeah, you got the thumbs up too. Look at you go.
Dude, I'm on a roll.
I know. Look at see, this is the best part of YouTube is like when people check this out on YouTube, they're gonna be like, I feel this. I am also an old person trying to figure out Zoom in this new post-COVID era.
God. All right, Brian. I'm gonna
love
let
you,
you go, buddy. I will I'll let you know when I get all this stuff up.
Cool.
I'll do my best to do some of it tonight. I'll have the episode ready for tomorrow, but I may not have the YouTube up by tomorrow.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you, man.
Have a good night, dude. All right, bye.
Yeah.